welcome on into episode number 2 of the Beeline Podcast right here on SoundCloud and all across social media. Joe Barone.
Chris Barrow here.
Right here with you. Thanks so much to our already loyal listeners. We got already so much.
We got so much feedback, so many comments, and we really appreciate all of it. Sorry.
Can you talk?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Just stumbling a little.
So really, thank you so much for all the constructive criticism, our feedback, and all the comments that you guys have made. We've gotten outpouring of support, a lot of text messages, some phone calls, and a lot of people,
shares on Facebook.
Right, and a lot of shares on Facebook.
Thank you very
so much for that. Continue to share, continue to promote this, because that's exactly how we're going to convey our message and accomplish our 3 goals that we talked about last week, right?
Yes, we are, Joe.
Yeah, so we got a big show today planned, obviously. We have our first guest.
Yeah.
Finally, we got a first guest. And what we're going to do is we're going to interview him. We're going to find out his story, just like we want to do with all our guests. We're going to talk some New York sports with him. And then we'll take 4 stops on the express line and then wrap up the show with a few callers for us to weigh in on your questions, comments, and concerns. If you want to be one of these callers, just communicate with us at the end of each show. Let us know if you want to join us next week, and we'll see if we can work something out. So without further ado, let's introduce our first guest of the Beeline Podcast ever, the inaugural guest. That's Nick Barrow. Name sound familiar?
It's my brother, Nick.
Yeah.
How you doing, Nick?
I'm good. How you guys doing today?
I'm good. Are you feeling good? You feeling loose?
Yes, I'm loose. The only problem is they actually didn't pay me to be here.
No.
So I'm probably going to reach out and maybe see if I get a little compensation.
Yeah.
But that's something to do with your HR department, and I'll be contacting them shortly.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you
If only we had one.
Well, no. In all seriousness, though, Nick, we're really, really excited to
I'm
have
glad
you
to be here as well, guys.
On the first ever guest of the Beeline Podcast. And sure, your
an honor.
family,
I'm honored.
but you've got an interesting story. We all know this. We've grown up together, and we want to know. That's the point of this podcast. We want to get to know New York sports fans, get into the mind, because the mind is the
It's just
enigma
suffering,
of
yeah.
the New York sports fan. Right?
I don't know how you could be a New York sports fan. But.
So
Even though all 3 of us are.
yeah, no, it's
yeah, but I'm just saying.
All right, so let's get started. We're gonna start finding out your story now. So I guess what I want to start is when did you get your first taste of sports? Like, when did you start with playing and watching?
Well, when I first started playing, at least from my first memory, I was pretty young. And when I played, I actually played a couple sports. I played baseball, basketball, football. I played a little soccer. But really, the thing that got me into playing the sports is really to make friends at first. I was just trying to go out there and make some friends, play some sports. And to be honest, I was pretty good at it. So I just really liked playing those sports with the team camaraderie and everything.
Yeah.
A little mumbo jumbo. But I just really liked playing, being out there with the team, and just really excelling at all the sports.
Yeah.
And then even with just, I guess, getting into the sports of the viewing, I just really like the family bond of just watching the game together with your dad, your brother, even your mom, whatever it is, and you just really make it a real family thing.
You mentioned you played a lot of sports and you watched a lot of sports. What was the sport that you loved to play most, and why?
Well, when I was younger, I really loved baseball.
Yeah.
I really played.
You were good. I remember watching games.
The problem is when you're younger, you always think you're going to be the next best thing. You're going to make the next level and stuff like that. So I played a little league. I played on the travel team, traveled all over pretty much the Northeast, went to Pennsylvania for a tournament, New York, all over Jersey. And then really the thing that really hit me is that, like I was saying before, everybody thinks they're going to take the next step, go to college, go to the pros, stuff like that. So a funny story, well, not a funny story, but a story that really put me in my place. I actually went to a baseball showcase. And I went with a couple friends. We were pretty good. We were hitting the ball. We were hitting line drives up the middle, fielding ground balls, making nice plays. And I think we were maybe like 15, 16 at the time. And this one kid comes up, and I think he was probably like 14, 13. He was a lot younger than us. And we're hitting these line drives. We're like, yeah, we're hitting nice line drives. College scouts are going to come up to us. This kid comes up. He's 13. He's hitting balls 300 feet over ice cream trucks in left field.
Right.
So then you really put it into perspective, like, hey, am I doing this just for a hobby, or am I taking the next step?
Yeah.
And then, obviously, you're doing it for a hobby, but you're really doing it because you love the game. But as I got older, I really started to love basketball, just loving the moving in basketball, the shooting, being able to take over a game.
Right.
I remember when I was younger, one of my biggest memories of playing basketball, I actually put up like over 50 points in one game, and I just think it's
Like the brag.
not like to brag, but that's just a story that I hold dear to my heart because it's not even putting up the 50 points. It's just realizing, hey, I could take over a game. In baseball, you can't. If you're a pitcher, you can somewhat, but if your team doesn't score for you, you can't.
Right.
But in basketball, you can pretty much take over a game, score as many points as you want, and if you outscore the other team, you guys are going to win the game.
Yeah.
So
it's really interesting point that you're bringing up, the fact that you had that aha moment that you're saying, well, maybe sports isn't for me. I could still be a supporter and a fan and stuff like that, because I think we've all had that, and that's kind of the message that we want to share.
And that's,
I think we all
like for
did
me
too,
personally, I love playing baseball, love playing soccer all these years of my life.
But eventually you just gotta realize.
I mean, I had a moment in high school where I was like, you know what, the team isn't just for me. Even though I was decent, I was playing
Joe,
well. I didn't feel like I was in it anymore.
Yeah, I just wanted to pinpoint. It's probably not. Like you said, it was the team, but it probably wasn't the team that wasn't for you. It's the sport.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, you're saying to yourself like, "Hey, I'm really good," but then you're seeing these other kids and they're 10 times better.
Yeah.
At least that's
another
what I'm
thing.
thinking.
That's another point that people, I know. I had some friends who have actually gone on to play some sports, and especially in college in particular. They see, like, you're in, like, New York, New Jersey. There are people in Texas and Florida who play baseball and other sports
football
all year long, and they're getting the advantages that other people like us just don't. So I understand that completely.
And I think that's one of the another like a big thing nowadays. Like, these parents just push their kids so much and really bring them to these tournaments, bring them to these trainings, spend all this money, and most of the time the kid doesn't even want to play.
Yeah, it's like they're forcing their
but
kid
they're forcing them to play because
they want them to be the next Derek Jeter.
Yeah,
everybody does.
But it's less than 1%, so people got to start realizing that as well.
You said you like baseball. You said you like basketball. Did you have a certain player that you idolized growing up?
Yeah, so in baseball, my favorite player actually when I was younger was Robin Ventura, which is a little weird because he wasn't a big time player.
I love those kind of stories, though. But why though?
Yeah,
Robin
yeah, he just really stuck to me, and I really don't even have a story behind it, to be honest. I just really liked him. Yeah. In basketball, I really didn't have like a favorite player because I really wasn't that into basketball when I was younger. I got into it more when I was older, and I'm really not a big fan of. I'm a big fan of the NBA, but I'm really a bigger fan of college basketball.
That's how it runs in our family.
Yeah, my brother and I are big Notre Dame fans.
Yeah,
and as of batting stances, I really didn't imitate anybody. My brother and I actually we used to play a game just. I guess
I remember this game.
Yeah, we used to imitate batting stances and used to say like, "Oh, who's this? Who's this?" If it was
if you got to guess it right.
Yep. If it was Griffey, if it was Nomar Garcia Parra,
Barry Bonds,
if it was Hideki Matsui, pretty much anybody. So,
for me personally, I miss the adrenaline rush. I miss like going out there for game day, getting ready, get myself psyched up. Mm-hmm. Do you kind of share that opinion too? I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah, because I feel like there's nothing really. There's nothing like really getting ready for a game, and even though we're not like a professional where we're getting those adrenaline rush, like as big of adrenaline rushes that they're getting, or getting the IVs, or smelling salt, or anything like that, but there is still a big rush of just going, getting ready for a game, saying, okay, this is what I'm going to, planning out your attack. Okay, I'm going to do this my first at bat, or okay, I'm going to do this the first play of the basketball game. I'm going to maybe come around a pick and make an easy layup, and then we're going to go into a press. So yes, I do miss that, the adrenaline and just the preparation.
All right, so we've been to a lot of sporting events in our lifetime. You know that?
Yes.
So do you remember your earliest New York sports memory?
This question did come up. Do you remember your first earliest New York sports memory? And my family and I, we really had Jet season tickets for a while.
Yeah,
so it's really hard to pinpoint my first one. So I'm going to tell you actually my favorite one. So when I was in, I think I was a freshman in I was a sophomore in college, and that was the 2000. Well, it was going into sophomore. No, it was 2010 actually.
2010.
But it was the 2010-2011 season, so it was January 2011. And my friends and I, we actually made a road trip to Foxborough to see the Jets Patriot playoff game. And that was an experience I would never forget. Because I remember I was down in my basement, and the Jets played the Colts that game before. And once that field goal went in, we started calling everybody, we're getting tickets, we're doing this, we're doing that. And a lot of times when we plan
That was
stuff,
ballsy because that was the Patriots.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, going
Patriots
into their
beat the Jets
territory.
45-3 that same year.
and then a lot of times we'll say we're doing something and it falls through. As
Most of the time.
as Joe, you definitely know.
Most of the time.
But
Yep.
my friends and I, we actually put this all together, put up a nice Foxborough trip, went up there, and the Jets obviously won, and that was the last time they were actually in the playoffs. So hopefully they could get back to the playoffs and we can make that road trip again, just with friends, with family, with everybody,
yeah.
and really hopefully the Jets can take that next step.
Yeah, we'll talk about your teams in a little bit. Overall, let's just for the record, what fan are you so that everybody knows?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm a Jet fan, a Knicks fan, and a Met fan.
Those are your New York sports.
Yeah, those are my 3 New York sports, and unfortunately, I'm New York through and thin, and unfortunately, my dad didn't raise me as a Giant or a Yankee fan, but so
Save you a couple of great
Yeah, but
years.
that's why when they win,
it's going to be
the
great.
best.
It will be
It'll be
great.
the best.
It will be great.
So, out of all of our sports teams, which one would you cherish the championship the most, and why?
At least me personally would be the Jets. My family and I, we like I said before, we have season tickets. We go to all the games. We tailgate. We make it a real family thing. We were actually discussing this before. My aunt actually gave my dad a bottle of Dom Perignon,
my mom.
and it's from 1993. And my dad said, "Hey, we're going to pop this open when
Like vinegar right now.
when the Jets."
Probably popping it on my dad's grave. But that's the truth.
But he said we're going to pop it when the Jets win the Super Bowl. And I actually got married in 2018, and we were downstairs doing pictures, having a drink or whatever. And he said, we're going to pop this now. But I said, you know what? Let's hold it off. We said we were going to do it for the Jets. So let's hold off, and hopefully we do it soon so we could all taste that 1993 Dom P. And hopefully it's not flat. Hopefully it's nice and bubbly and stays fresh.
Well, that'll lead us to a question, though. Do you think you're going to be popping it anytime soon?
Well, at least from what I saw last year, there was a lot of pros and a lot of cons. At least me personally, I think Darnold's the real deal.
Okay.
He can make the throw. He's got the arms. The decision making is a little choppy, but he's young.
Right.
So I'm just hoping we hit into free agency hard, make some nice picks, and take it a step further next year.
And that's a perfect segue into our Express Line. The Express Line right here on the Beeline podcast. Joe Barone, Chris Burrow, and his brother,
Nick
Burrow, our first guest of the podcast. But I guess we'll start off on the Express Line. Our first stop, we'll stop in New Jersey with those New York Jets, your number 1 team. Earlier this week, Manish Mehta of the Daily News stated that Hard Knocks, HBO's Hard Knocks, were interested in filming the Jets this offseason, but the feeling just wasn't mutual. Let's briefly discuss this.
All right.
Do we like Hard Knocks, and is it smart for the Jets to stay away from it?
You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Yeah, Joe, let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Just to start this off, when was the last team that was in Hard Knocks won the Super Bowl?
I don't.
Yeah,
really
but there
watch
are
Hard
playoff
Knocks, so I
teams.
couldn't
If they're
tell you.
going to playoffs, there's playoff teams that have made it before.
Yeah, but when was the last team that made the Super Bowl? That's my only
The Jets
question.
aren't making the Super Bowl.
Well, that's the only.
All right.
In football, that's your main prize is that Super Bowl.
Right.
So, at least me personally, if
When was their last Super Bowl before Hard Knocks?
Well, that's,
1969?
Well,
It's not going to be a jinx.
at least me personally, I don't want them to do Hard Knocks just for the simple fact of they did it before with Rex Ryan, and that season was a total disaster. They were supposed to be a big team coming off
Nasty defense.
a lot of wins the seasons before, nasty defense, and they laid an egg. They have a lot of young players. They have all. It's not like they have that one veteran that could really lead them through it.
Yeah.
So at least me personally, I'm not a big fan of it.
I'm not a fan of it either, but as you can see, they have everything that they can offer for it.
See, the thing is, the Jets also have this thing called One Jets Drive this year that the website and the team's PR staff and everybody and the
I've
whole
actually
video
watched that before.
Very good.
It is very good.
Excellent produced content. I'm a big fan of social media content and all that. I think it was really entertaining. That was their version of Hard Knocks. It was just as effective because the fans were able to get their behind-the-scenes access, and I thought it was just as good. And there was no drama.
Yeah, but in my opinion, when you do Hard Knocks, this is why I'm against it.
Yeah.
I feel like obviously the cameras are hidden and everything, but I feel like the players know they're there, and it's taking them off of training camp.
Oh, I can
like
see
they
that.
can't I know recently you saw like Jarvis Landry curse on it and stuff, but
Well, speaking of players, I think that's another con against them. They really don't have that one person out there with the personality to really make Hard Knocks attractive. They might have the coach as the defense coordinator that they just hired, but the player wise, I don't think they have that one personality that could really
like Robbie Anderson, I think is too quiet. Darnold,
so
Jamal Adams might be able to actually.
Well, this is where I want to go with our next point, our next stop on the Express Line segment of the Beeline podcast. Free agency and draft strategy. Do you see them bringing in somebody like a veteran that can be that go-to guy? Let's just say if they do get Hard Knocks, but not just for that point, but just to lead this young team in the right direction.
Yeah, well, they as everybody knows, they're actually the top cap space team in the NFL.
The Colts are.
So they're actually the second most. So they have $90+ million. At least me personally, last pass rusher that we had, John Abraham, way long ago.
Good pass rusher, yes.
Last good playmaker we had, Keyshawn Johnson, probably a while ago. Maybe Santonio Holmes. So I really think that they have to hit free agency hard, at least on the pass rusher side. You got Jadeveon Clowney, you got Trey Flowers, you got D Ford. Even though he's a linebacker, he's a pass rusher.
Of course, the Chiefs to playoffs.
Yeah, DeMarcus Lawrence.
Do you forgive him for that?
I do.
The Chiefs
I think he's going to come back.
At the end of the day,
playoff spot, but the playoff.
It's one game. It's one play.
The Super Bowl berth, right?
It's one play. You can't blame one guy for one play.
Yeah.
What about all those other plays? They didn't make plays on it.
Yeah.
So I think they need a pass rusher, like I said, and then even a playmaker with Le'Veon Bell. Everybody's talking about Le'Veon Bell. At least me personally, I don't want to give him the money.
Wow.
But then
Why?
Well, I just think he's not worth it because the offensive line is what makes running backs go.
I've heard that argument before.
Without an offensive line, it doesn't matter if you have Barry Sanders in the backfield; he's going to get clogged up. So even for the draft, I think they need to go. Whatever they don't get in free agency, they have to get in the draft. If it's an offensive tackle, if it's a pass rusher, whatever it is.
Yeah, I feel like they need a lot more than just a playmaker in offense like Le'Veon Bell. So I would even target Clowney, for example.
See, the thing is, I don't want to hear that argument because
what argument?
That if you sign Le'Veon Bell, you're not going to have enough cap space.
Yes, but he's going to want a max deal,
right? But you can give money to Le'Veon Bell and still have enough money to shell out to a defensive tackle, a pass rusher, an offensive lineman. The Jets have enough cap space where they can do that, and that's why I don't buy that nonsense of if Le'Veon Bell's a Jet, they're not going to have any more cap space because it's nonsense. That's what it is.
Well, Joe, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
There is another running back out there that will cost them less.
Who?
Mark Ingram. He's only 26 years old.
Okay.
So why don't you give him, say, $6 million less, and you could bring in a veteran offensive lineman to really steamroll that offensive line in the rushing game and then also help Darnold.
Yeah.
Because that's your main thing. You got to groom Darnold.
Right. And you make a valid point. And I
they
get
give
that
him bringing a pass rusher with that, too.
I get that completely. My point is you need an overall game changer. Mark Ingram could be a game changer.
Yeah, but so can
Le'Veon Bell is a full-on game changer.
Clowney could be one also on defense.
I understand that, but I'm saying the Jets need a guy that they can rely on offense. They have a young quarterback. They don't have a number one receiver.
Antonio Brown? Straight for him.
I don't know. I don't know about that in particular, but I'm saying you need to get a guy that could really change an entire game, for the Jets on offense. Le'Veon Bell can do that. Maybe Mark Ingram can. I just need the Jets to make sure that they could get somebody, and they'll have enough money to get a lot.
But how do you know he's going to come? The guy hasn't played in a full year. I know he's probably been training.
He's been practicing.
But anybody can say they've been training.
Okay, so we'll have to see.
I got 2 words. John Connor does the exact same thing as Le'Veon, if not better. So
and makes a lot less money.
Yeah, but
made a lot less money. Sorry.
All right. So
my thing is like everybody says they're training. I could say I'm training for. Who knows?
He was training in Miami too.
Why? Because of Snapchat? That's why he's training?
Okay. All right. So our third stop right here on the Express Line here on the Beeline podcast stops at 34th Street, Madison Square Garden. The Knicks turned some heads this week. They've received some backlash, guys. A lot of people were really, taunting them and giving them a lot of crap about this season ticket
for next year.
Photo promotion for next year. It's kind of a hairy situation here because you know who's in that picture?
They got Kevin Durant and then Mitchell Robinson.
Mitchell Robinson, the focus is on him, but guarding him is Kevin Durant. And who's a free agent?
Actually, I don't know if that's really featuring.
All right, featuring him. Who's a free agent? Kevin Durant. Who did his trade? Kristaps Porzingis to open up a roster spot in cap space
and cap space for Kevin Durant.
Okay,
or a big time free agent.
Do you think this is a smart move, or were they just trying to be slick?
Well, at least my perspective, I think they were trying to be slick. I just think that's a Dolan move of saying, "Oh, look what we're getting. Buy my tickets." Dolan, at least me personally, I think he just wants to sell tickets, which is what he's supposed to. I'm saying which he's. That's what he's supposed to do because he's an owner. But I just think that is a move to say, hey, look who we're getting. We're getting Kevin Durant. But at least me personally, I think we have to go and get at least 2 max contracts. If it's KD, if it's somebody else. And even if they get, say, a Kyrie and a Kawhi and don't get KD, I think it's KD or bust.
Well,
at least me personally.
He's going out west.
I don't see him coming to the Knicks.
Kawhi's going out west.
Yeah.
I think, like you said about the tickets for next year, I think the same thing as Nick does. I think he's just trying to sell tickets for next year, and by putting him on there, it'll draw fans.
But they removed it. They've since removed it.
Yeah, because people were complaining about it. That's why.
And that's what
they have to get a big-time free agent.
And that's what Dolan's supposed to do, though. He's an owner. He's supposed to bring in the clientele. He's supposed to make money.
Yes, but not like that. You have so much more young talent on that team, and you could just put Mitchell Robinson and then Dennis Smith Jr. You don't have to put Kevin Durant.
True. I do love, though, Nick, that you're saying we, as in your team, your Knicks, your Jets, because that's what New York sport. Well, that's what any sports fan really has. You're talking about your team as if you're part of it.
Yeah,
that's the fandom part of everything.
Yes.
But that's neither here or there. Our fourth stop is out to Willets Point City Field.
Mets are making a lot of noise this offseason.
Yeah. Mets obviously in Florida currently, but they still play at City Field. Pitchers and catchers reported earlier this week. Really exciting time of the year. But Jacob deGrom caused quite a bit of a stir, especially on Thursday, when he spoke to the media, basically threatening the Mets, saying it'll have to be a discussion that's going to have to be had with his agents if a long-term extension can't be worked out, that limit his usage.
Yep.
Right. Does that kind of scare you? A, has he earned the right to do this? And B, should he get paid?
The second question that you asked me, I think he deserves to get paid because he's coming off a Cy Young caliber year, obviously.
And he's been a consistent pitcher since he started with the Mets.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And what was the first question?
Has he earned the right to threaten the Mets, saying that, listen,
I think he's hurting himself. I think he's hurting himself because if he limits his innings, then
teams aren't going to
because they're going to be like, why do you do that to them? And the Mets can only afford to sign one of these guys, either Syndergaard or deGrom.
That's not true.
I think so, but
it's not, at least because I just wanted to throw my input in there as well. It's not that they could only sign. It's just that the Wilpons, I think, will only sign one. So it's either you have to come down to do you want deGrom?
Will cost less. I think Matz will cost less.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to sign at least one of them. Those are your big time guys.
100%.
But deGrom's 30, Syndergaard's in his 20s. You're gonna have to give him big time money to somebody. It's either of who do you want to sign. Me personally, I would like to go with Syndergaard. He's younger, even though he's injury prone. He's younger, got a liver arm, and I think he has a lot better stuff with all his.
I think deGrom has better stuff, but
stuff.
Syndergaard is much he has much more potential.
Listen,
then he's old. deGrom, he's 30.
He's not old. 30 is still.
Yeah, but how many years are you going to sign him for?
My point is, the Mets said they were all in this offseason when they brought in Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz, right?
Yep.
Cano, I believe, has 5 or 6 years left.
6.
Okay. He's going to be good, really good, for the next 3 years at least.
Tops,
I guess.
Yeah.
If you want to go all in, you sign the player that is going to make you go all in. deGrom.
No, well, I could agree with that, but I wouldn't sign him for more than 2 years.
Well, he's not going to accept a 2-year deal.
Yeah,
especially with arbitration.
2 or 3 years. But if he asks for a 4-year deal, why would you sign him for a 4-year deal?
Well, listen, this is his one chance, okay? He's setting himself up for his last contract. Okay, this is his last chance to get a long-term deal. A 5-year contract is what he wants, or even a 6-year contract. $25 million or $26 million for 5 years is a good starting point for him because that'll take him to his low to mid-30s and really, take care of the situation for deGrom being the ace of the staff and the Mets being perennial contenders for the World Series.
Yeah, but most pitchers. How many pitchers are really that successful in their late 30s? Like, you have a Tom Glavine, you have like a Maddox, you have all these guys.
34, 35 years old, though.
But my thing is, I don't want to. give somebody a contract that like the Yankees have been getting contracts like Ellsbury, like Sabathia, like all
Nick,
these guys.
I have to ask you though, what does that matter down the road if in the first 2 years it helps bring a World Series championship?
At least me personally, I don't think they're ready to win now. I don't think they have the bats. They do.
But you're making it all a veteran team now with Cano.
Yeah, but they've always had that.
It's really
they had that last year.
It's really not that veteran. Like you have Frazier, you have Cano, but you do have a lot of young pieces still.
At the same time, though, Cano is a huge superstar, quote unquote superstar.
Yes.
He's been brought here to help go all in. That's my point.
I think me personally, they really brought Cano to groom Rosario, but that's just my opinion.
That could be.
I guess.
Can I just ask one question though?
Sure. Yeah.
But my biggest fear is the Mets are in third place come September.
Yeah.
But
and they
have about 70 wins.
Okay.
And they can still win the division. What do you do then? You're in third with DeGrom. Do you sell or do you buy?
Well, he's not a free agent until after 2020.
Okay.
He has an arbitration year still, so they could still give him arbitration. Now, it's going to get ugly, but...
Yeah, but do you trade him? If you don't sign him by the end of this year, I don't see him signing with you long term.
He's not going to sign
because he's going to lose trust in you. So do you sell him?
Get an ugly relationship.
Yeah, but do you sell him to a contender and then get a lot of assets for him, or do you play for the playoffs?
We got Brody. Don't worry about anything.
Yeah, we got Brody. Yeah, you know how many GMs I heard that about?
All right, so
we got this guy. Don't worry about him. Yeah, all right.
So let's reel things back in here. We've reached the end of the line here on the Beeline Podcast. Joe Barone, Chris Burrow, our special guest here, and that's Nick Burrow. This is the part of the show now, the new part of the show, where we'll take callers, and the three of us will chime in with our opinions.
Your take, guys, your take.
All right, our first call is Derek from the car phone. Derek, what's going on?
How you doing, guys?
What's going on? How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Wish I wasn't in traffic, but, you know, it is what it is.
Where are you coming from?
The Bronx.
Welcome to the daily commute.
Yeah, unfortunately. Part of life.
What's your question?
Do you guys think that the DH being proposed to be in the National League as well, do you guys think it's going to transform baseball?
Yes.
First,
yeah. You know what? I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, I'm a huge proponent for the DH, guys. I think that, and we talked about this in the first episode.
Yeah, we did. Yep.
The DH is going to create a lot of offense, in particular for the NL, because it already does that for the American League. So I don't see why it wouldn't change offensively things going in both leagues.
I think it's going to change dramatically also because when you watch a All-Star game,
right,
there's a DH in there. Some of the games end like 11-10, 12-11.
Right.
So there'll be a lot more runs scored, and
I think, yeah, but this is also going to do wonders for the fan, the casual fan. You know, not the diehard in particular. Maybe like the old timer that likes the whole the normal type of National League pitcher hitting type of thing, the strategy behind it. But if you want to get casual fans, if you want to get the younger fans, the millennials,
you got to make people score more runs.
The runs is really what's going to do something.
Well, I just want to bring something up since we are, not we, but you guys, Joe and Chris, you guys are in New York sports broadcast. Actually, the first DH actually took place in April 6th of 1973.
Yeah, thanks.
And apparently it was the New York Yankees that had that first guy. And his name was Ron...
Sandberg, I think his name was, actually.
I think it was...
Sandberg, I think his name was?
No, it was actually Ron Blomberg or Bloomberg.
Blomberg.
But just to go back to your question, I think it's going to change the game as well, but I'm actually against it, just for the fact of there's been a while that there hasn't been a DH in the NL. Right. You know, like everybody says strategy, stuff like that, and I feel like that is a key opponent in the NL. Those managers have to strategize to win that game. But then also you're taking the bats out of good pitchers' hands. Like DeGrom's a great hitter.
Yeah, but not every pitcher is a good
but
hitter.
I just think it's a part of a game. At least that's just me personally.
All right.
What's your take, Eric?
My take on it is I think this is a complete home run for both leagues to have a designated hitter.
I agree.
Reason number one is when you get to the point where you're in the World Series, the American League team has a significant advantage over the National League team because they have a designated hitter that's been the DH for the entire season. They have a position, a player, an actual full-time player that is a DH in that league. In the National League, they do not usually have a guy that's like, you're our designated hitter every single game. They do not have that. And when I'm looking at teams like, case in point, the Mets, I think the designated hitter would be an absolute home run for the Mets.
Are you kidding me? Cespedes is the perfect guy for that.
You have Cano's contract that towards the end of that deal, he is not going to be able to play second base anymore.
Right.
You got DH wide open for him. And right now, if let's say next year they decide to bring in a DH, you got Cespedes that can't play the outfield anymore. He is a DH. The other point is National League teams have a disadvantage when it comes to signing older players because older players are going to look to get to the American League because they're going to say, I can't play a position anymore, but I can DH. I can still hit. So they have that advantage. And I just think bringing the DH would make every team have even playing field with every other team, regardless of the division. I understand the point of having, the pitcher being in the National League, pitcher hitting is, part of old school baseball, but old school baseball is gone. It's long, long gone.
I agree.
The manager now is totally obsolete. So why not bring in a designated hitter and boost more offense into the whole league?
Yeah, I agree as well. The only thing, at least with me personally, I either want, like you said, it's a great opportunity to bring more offense. I'm really, like I said before, I'm against it, but I'm also at least hearing your points and even hearing other people's points as well.
You understand it.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's either you got to make no DH or there has to be two DHs in both leagues. You can't have
one and the other.
But me personally, I like how it. Like, obviously, I wasn't around in 1950 when there wasn't a DH. I just like the strategy behind the baseball, and I appreciate it. Yeah. But there is no, like you were saying, the DH is definitely great for the NL, but it's got to either be both leagues DH or both leagues no DH.
Yeah, our next caller is Richie Cassiano from Marlboro, New Jersey. What do you want to talk about today, Richie?
Hey, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me. Thinking about talking about the Knicks today. Just about the dysfunction of that entire franchise and where it's going in the future.
Okay. What's up?
So, recently, about a week or two ago, they traded their franchise cornerstone, Kristaps Porzingis, to the Mavericks. Personally, I think that at first that trade was an awful move to trade your franchise cornerstone. But, as I was thinking about it, he didn't like the Knicks. He wasn't happy with the franchise. He wanted out. He wouldn't have probably stayed anyway. So, to be able to dump all that salary, I thought that was a good idea to get those contracts out, to have some space to sign some big-time free agents. Right. However, I think the trade's not going to be – you're not going to be able to judge the trade until you see who they get in the offseason. If they're going to land a Kevin Durant, they're going to land a Kyrie Irving, Kemba Walker, something along those caliber players, then I think that the trade's a win. But, of course, if they're stuck with, Tobias Harris and, some other, not necessarily top-tier player, the trade's not exactly going to be as good as it should be.
I think, Rich, you were right as far as a lot of Knicks fans were reacting like you, where at first they said, wait, you're trading KP?
I was one of them.
What the hell is that about? But at the same time, you want, to free up the cap space. You want somebody that could – KP had –
He really didn't want to be there.
Yeah. And when was the last season he actually played fully?
That's what I was going at. He's been
He never played a full season, which is another thing. Guys that are that small, you never know how they're going to be. 7'3", you can move like a guard. Those knees are going to go by 30.
Right.
No, yeah, I completely agree with Richie. At first, I was, what is this team doing? Right. But I totally saw where they were coming from when they got rid of him. He obviously didn't want to be there. And his brother made it clear.
Right, you get somebody like Dennis Smith Jr.
Yeah, I like the trade.
He's a good player.
Dennis Smith Jr. looks good.
Right, he's young, and then now you have two open spots where you could go all in on a couple of free agents that if let's say you bring in a guy like Kyrie, you bring in a guy like Kevin Durant, just right there makes that trade a success.
Especially that you have all that cap space, you can afford two of them.
Right.
And the DeAndre Jordan part of it, I could see him sticking around for one more year.
And you're also going to have most likely a top 4 pick. Even if you come in the bottom 3, you're pretty much guaranteed for a top. I think it is like a top 6 or something like that, whatever the percentage is. But you can get a big time player out of college.
I'll take anyone from Duke at this point. They're balling.
Yeah, they are. Thank you for calling, Richie.
Thanks, Rich.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Have a good one.
Our next caller is Nick L. What are you going to talk about today, Nick?
Hi, Chris. Hi, Joe. Love the show. So I just have a quick question about Odell Beckham. Do you know any kind of circumstances of what Odell could be doing in the future?
As far as if he's going to get traded or not?
Yeah.
Listen, I don't think the Giants should trade him. As much as his antics are a little bit of a circus act, I don't think they should trade him. He's an unbelievable talent. I mean, you have him and Saquon Barkley and
Saquon.
Right, but you have those two pieces that you want to build around for the Giants. You get a quarterback in there, it's automatically, you're going to have some sort of chemistry.
Yeah, if you trade Odell, you're back to square one, basically.
Right.
Because then you don't have a number one receiver.
It depends who you get back for it.
Yeah, but they might just offer picks.
At the end of the day, he's your blue chip. He's your dark horse. He's your big guy that you have. But the thing is, if they trade him, even if they get 3 first-round picks, right?
Well, that's a lot.
Beckham, or whatever it is, 2, 1, whatever it is, Beckham is a proven guy. He's a proven MVP, not an MVP, but he's an MVP type caliber. So you have Beckham now. He's, like I said, your big guy. He's young. He's marketable. Fans love him. Even with all his antics, fans love him. Yeah. You have him, Saquon, build around
Not
them.
Every fan loves him.
His jersey sales are through the roof. If you can get a quarterback, hopefully in this draft, if he turns out winding up being good, you have a quarterback, a playmaker receiver, playmaker running back. That's a sign of a team for success.
All right, thanks so much.
No problem. Have a good day, guys.
Nick, you were our first guest. What do you think?
I thought it was a great honor, great experience. I loved being part of the show, and I loved talking New York sports with you guys and my personal experience.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Make sure you're tuning in next week. We have another show planned. Who knows what we'll have, what guests we'll have. A lot of surprises.
It's up for grabs right now.
Yeah, so let us know.
You want to say something before we go?
I was just going to tell the other future people out there that they try to get, make sure you discuss contract and money before.
Stop.
At least maybe get a free dinner or like a turkey sandwich or something instead of just coming here out of my own goodwill.
Yeah, all right. Everybody have a good night.
All right, have a good night. Ciao, baby.